And don't forget to stay tuned following Viewpoint with Don Pachence for a Viewpoint Berwick region with your host, L.A. Tarone. That is tonight at 7:30. Should be another great show.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to WYLN TV's Viewpoint Berwick region. I'm L.A. Tarone. Our guest tonight is currently on Borough Council, but if you live in Columbia County anywhere, you know her real well. She's been on numerous government boards and has been in the public eye for close to 25 years, actually probably a little over 25 years. Our guest is Lucille Whitmire, and we'll discuss all sorts of things about Berwick Borough when we come back. Don't go anywhere. And good evening, and welcome back to WYLN TV's Viewpoint Berwick region. Our guest tonight had spent 3 terms as a Columbia County Commissioner, 2 separate tenures on Borough Council, 1 in the 70s, and since 1992, she was also the first woman elected to Berwick Borough Council, and is again Council President. Lucille Whitmire is our guest tonight. Thank you very much for coming on tonight. You're welcome. My pleasure.
Start with something rather contentious. The state granted the Keystone Opportunity Zone, created it in 1998, and Berwick was affected by it, by properties that were covered under it, and there was a tax revenue loss. You were opposed to that.
Yes, I was.
Why?
Well, first of all, I didn't think there was enough specifics for to designate a KOZ zone into the BIDA complex. Secondly, I'm not really all that thrilled with tax-free dollars. And they were 2 of the reasons. There were a lot of other reasons at that time for my opposition of it, but in particular, they were 2 of the biggest ones. And plus, at the time, I felt that exonerating that area, the BIDA had owed back taxes to the borough and to the county and to the state, and then to exonerate it, I just didn't feel it was the right move for council.
Well, was a great deal of money involved?
There wasn't, for all 3 entities,
yeah.
The school, the county, and the borough. But for the borough, it was a few $1,000s. Mm-hmm. But it's still, it's still enough dollars that it does affect your budget. And plus, I just don't think it's fair, to other industries and other corporations that are within Berwick that you designate to certain spots.
There are some other critics who have termed KOZ corporate welfare, for example,
right.
That the businesses
right.
get off it. Now, supporters, of course, say that it's created thousands of jobs statewide, although, frankly, their figures are a bit spongy. I mean,
in order to, in my opinion, you have to have more specifics, and you have to have something that's down and that's going to stay in the borough. And in my experience, and then just reviewing other tax-frees, corporations and industries come into your area, they're there for the 10 years, and as soon as their tax-free status is over, thank you and goodbye. They leave you.
Well, that has been the case. For example, in downtown Hazelton, we tried something like that in the 80s, and that's exactly what happened. Now, KOZ2 sailed through the General Assembly. So this time, there were proposals to put the Eagles building in a KOZ zone and portions of downtown. I'm not sure which specific blocks, but portions of downtown.
Well, it never really came to a vote to council, but there had been talk that they would like to designate some of the downtown areas as a KOZ zone, and of course the Eagles building was one. They also had, wanted to put the hotel, Berwick Hotel into KOZ zone and some of the vacant lots. But that never really came, I don't really think the school was in any position to designate a KOZ zone to begin with. And
with the Berwick Hotel, now, I know that's owned by someone named Dr. Harbon Singh. His corporation owns it, I suppose, specifically.
Absolutely,
as well.
right.
And I know he's been that firm has been fined numerous times. The mayor told me on this program a couple of months ago that none of those fines were ever paid. I don't know about the status of the taxes.
Okay, there's unpaid taxes.
So you would then not only lose any potential new revenue, you would also lose the back taxes.
Absolutely, and as far as the hotel, it'll be 2 years this month that it's been condemned.
Yeah.
And we filed at least 170 citations against Dr. Singh. None of them which have been served because he's in New York.
Long Island, I believe.
Right, and it's very difficult to find him, to locate him. So what we've done now is we've taken a lawsuit against Unity Bank, who has an interest in it, and that's what we're pursuing at this point in time.
Back up to KOZ specifically, though. Originally, and I suppose this is a problem with the program more than the borough per se, but we were under the impression it was supposed to be for areas that are very difficult to develop. Downtowns already are developed, and so you're going to be looking at having to cast a vote at some point, because if it is picked, BIDA, I assume, will be the one who will be picking the list, and then they'll shop it to the county, to the borough, to the school district, and you'll all have to approve it. Are you inclined to vote for something that includes downtown properties in the Keystone Opportunity Zone? At
this point, no. No, and I don't think it's fair. It's not fair for the existing stores that are in downtown and the existing businesses that have been there and have been struggling and want to keep their company and keep their stores abreast. And I don't think it's fair to those individuals that, if their property is not designated as a KOZ zone, and there are others that are designated. I just don't think it's a fair way to go.
Let's go back to the Eagles building. Okay. You and I were talking about this off air, to be perfectly honest, folks, and you mentioned, and you're correct, that thousands, literally hundreds of thousands of dollars have been spent in the Eagles building thus far.
That's right. The development of the Eagles building is all through federal and state grants.
Yeah.
And then to designate it yet to be into a KOZ zone, and then exempt them yet for 12 years of taxes. And I just don't think that's fair.
Stay in the Eagles building, but change gears. Lucerne County Community College has been looking at it for a satellite campus. I haven't heard anything in probably 2 or 3 months. Do you know what's up?
Last I heard that the directors of the Lucerne County Community College have voted to come into, and that's exactly where it is now. I guess
I don't know if they picked a specific location though. Did they when they voted?
I think they did.
Okay.
I think they did, and of course they'll be coming into the Eagles building, and it's going to be night classes, and they'll be offering other type of classes in that building.
One concern they expressed was parking. And I asked the mayor about it a couple of months ago, and he said that there were some ideas floating around, but nothing concrete. On council's standpoint, do you have anything?
Okay. I think it's about 2 months ago, the BIDA did come in and ask council, we do own the municipal parking lot. And they said that the parking was going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. And they had proposed to us that they wanted to build a parkade.
Yeah.
Okay. And, they wanted the council to designate so much money for the parkade, and they would put the rest of the money in. And then the borough would own the parkade. Mm-hmm. Well, council at that time did vote to use some of our block grant money, about $300,000. And they felt that their engineer said that it would run about $600,000 to build a parkade.
So that's a 50-50 split.
Okay, well, we started to do some exploring of our own, and I talked to 4 different engineering firms, and their figures coming in at $1 million. Well, there's no way that I'm going to spend, $300,000 for $1 million parkade for 70 parking spots. That's all we're going to get out of that.
Uh-huh.
So, you're getting 70 parking spots out of a new one. We already have 80 existing for $1 million. So, as far as I'm concerned, and I will be bringing this up at the next council meeting to not go through with that project and look at another option.
Our guest tonight is Borough Council President Lucille Whitmire, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. To WYLN TV's Viewpoint Berwick region with our guest tonight, Borough Council President Lucille Whitmire. Let's stay on the parkade. So where you left off was council agreed to put up $300,000. BIDA was supposed to come up with $300,000, but then an independent engineer looked at it and said it's over $1 million and not viable at all?
Correct. We had, the council went ahead and asked 4 separate engineers to give us some figures. estimates on what it would cost, and each one of them came up with an estimate of $1 million. Two of the engineers said it wasn't even a viable project. It's too narrow of a space. And
now, more specifically, were they
right behind Main Street.
Okay.
And if you're coming across the bridge, and it's back in back of Main Street, and it would be behind the Eagles building.
Okay.
And actually, it will cost about $15,000 a parking space, and that's astronomical. That's just way out of touch, and we have to look at another alternative for that, another option, because it's just too high.
Is LCCC aware that that parkade proposal is probably not going to happen, and have they expressed any opinion or concern about it at all?
Probably not. I met last month with BIDA, and we talked to them, and I had the figures and told them that I felt it was just going to be too costly, and that council would probably not, I was going to bring it up at our next council meeting, we probably would not go with that. I don't think that's going to make any difference with LCC coming into Berwick. I think the majority of their classes will be night classes. And I think, we're just going to have to play it by ear to see whether or not we have enough parking spaces.
Let's change gears completely. It's about a little over a year now. A landlord's ordinance was enacted that required landlords it eventually worked out being that they were to inspect their own property, although there were some other proposals floating around. Explain that a little bit, first of all.
Well, council felt we needed an ordinance that would give us a little more teeth, a little bit more to get into these homes if we're called upon to go into them. And basically, the landlord's ordinance now is really lenient. And what it is, a landlord has to register every year with us, and it's on the honor system. They register with us, and they also inspect their own property. If we get a complaint, and we go to that home, and we pull out the file, and and let's say the wiring is good, the roof is good, the plumbing, and so forth, and we go into that home, and it's not such, then, of course, the ordinance does have provisions in it where you then could set the fines and so forth, and they have to bring it up to code. Okay,
critics at the time, and the new councilman, Andy Sobek and Gary Pitterich, were two of them, who said they were going to bring it back up again, but evidently they haven't. And to be perfectly frank, I was among them, because this ordinance wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be, because I had worked in Pottsville, where one was proposed, that had the stormtroopers charging into the buildings, and that's what critics said this was going to be. And on the face of it, the first proposals, that's what it kind of looked like.
The thing is, though, that there was a lot of back and forth, and we did have the Landlords Association in with us. I mean, we worked with them right up until the last minute, and we thought we had a good ordinance. Things got out of control, things were misunderstood, miscommunications, and before you knew it, they were comparing Berwick to Russia. That, that we're going to come into your homes and we're going to inspect your homes, and that is not the truth. The truth is, what we want to do is we want to clean our community up. And this was just another tool to be able to do that, to give us a little more teeth to be able to get in there and do it. And it's been in a year, and we've had no complaints, from the Landlords Association. Yes.
Oh, they have been cited?
There's been, yes, we've used it, and there's been people who've been cited, and there were a landlord who wouldn't even file with us, and he was arrested, taken away. He was from he came right into City Hall, and we had him arrested and went the whole gambit with him. But on the whole, we have not had any problems with it, and we're not going to go in and invade your privacy. We wouldn't do that.
The proposal in Pottsville.
I know. No, we wouldn't do that.
Zoning Officer Bill Kepping, however, was in the Press Enterprise, I guess it was this Sunday, saying that he thinks it's not strong enough, that it needs more teeth. He didn't give any specifics to the reporter. Has he mentioned anything to you?
No, he has not. And at this point in time, we have our hands full right now enforcing with what we have.
So you would not be in favor of making it any tougher? No,
I would not be in favor at this point in time, no, or any time, in the future. I think that, if we enforce the codes that we have now on the books, we should be able to, it'll be a slow process, but be able to do what we have to do.
Let's change gears again and talk about the police department. Mayor Reep asked for an extra police officer last year's budget. And then the arbitration came up, and my memory's failing me. He did not get the extra police officer, though I believe you voted for one, and I don't know, what's the current status?
Okay, the current status is in 1999 we had 14 police officers. That's including the chief. For 2000, we have 13. What we did in November, we did finally vote for one extra police officer. And what happened was we had two officers who had left the force, and actually one was replaced. So from 14 it went to 12, and now it's back up to 13. And the first time it came on the books, I was the only one that had voted for the police officer, but it was brought back up again in November, and we did hire an extra police officer.
So we're at 13 cops in town now. Do you feel that Berwick could use a bigger police department?
I do, and let me just tell you, I met with the chief on a number of occasions here in the last 2 months. And right now we have a police force that's reacting. We have a reacting police force. And what I mean by that is we're reacting to the situations that we have. We're keeping on top of them, but we're reacting to them.
As opposed to heading them off?
Well, what we'd like to have, and what I like to see, it's a proactive police department. That you're not only reacting, but you're going beyond that, and you're preparing for these situations. So, we would like to be a proactive police department. And I think that, we really do need additional police officers. And what I like to propose to council, and I haven't even talked to them yet because it's been a long month and our meeting isn't until the last Monday. But I like to take advantage of this COPS grant.
I was going to ask you about
Okay, now, some people say it's good, it's bad, but I think in Berwick's position, we should do that. If you keep in mind that we're going to be having at least 5 patrolmen retire within the next 3 years. And I think right now is the time to take advantage of this grant. Hire 2 additional police officers. It's a 75-25%.
Right.
Okay, for 3 years. What I like to propose in those 3 years is taking some money out of each budget year and putting it into a fund to pick up the salaries when the 3 years is over, because my understanding of the grant is it's 1 year after.
Yeah, we're going to hold it there.
Okay.
We'll come back on that because I was going to ask you about it anyway. Our guest tonight, Borough Council President Lucille Whitmire. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Berwick Region with our guest tonight, the Borough Council President Lucille Whitmire. Let's get back to the COPS grant now. Now, you're in favor of accepting the COPS grant to add police officers.
Right. We need an additional cop. And I feel that we should take advantage of the grant. It's a 75-25, a 75...
so 75,
25%.
50, 25,
right.
Nothing, and you have to keep them for one extra year.
One extra year. I feel that we should take advantage of this. Because in the fact is that we are going to be having, at least, as I said, 5 officers in the next 3 years retire. They're of retirement age now. 3 of them are in retirement age. So we'll be able to take advantage of this and be able to put 2 officers on, have them aboard, and then, see what the years bring and see what the situation is in Berwick. In the meantime, if we don't do this, I'm going to recommend that we hire an additional police officer, which would be 100% salary from the general fund.
Okay, so your point is that it's going to be an expense anyway, and if the federal government wants to pick up part of the tab, why not?
Why not at this point? Because we need the police officer, and we could get our department to be a proactive police department.
Now, COPS was supposed to be for adding additional police, and I've been a COPS grant critic from the time it was created for a number of reasons. First of all, I don't think the federal government's responsibility is the local police department, and there are always the strings attached. But the way you're talking, I could see where you're coming, because it's since it's replacing an officer, in this case, who is going to retire, are you still eligible?
Oh, it's not going to replace officers the officers are still on board. And I don't know if they will retire.
Okay.
But we do have 5 that will be of retirement age.
Okay.
And they may retire. I do not know that.
Okay.
They may stay on, and no one's forcing them to retire. But what I'm saying is that we're going to recommend hiring 1, which if you didn't take advantage of the grant, you'd be paying 100% of that salary. So I feel that we should go ahead and apply for 2 cops. And this year we'd be paying 25% of each salary. You'd have your 2 patrolmen on.
Have you mentioned any of that to council?
No, and I will be bringing that up at our next council meeting.
You mentioned something else that council had tossed about before. I guess it was last spring, last summer. the police control ordinance, where there was an effort to have the scheduling set by council. In the end, things stayed as they are, but I think you and the council majority said, well, we're going to keep an eye on it, and we'll check, and if necessary, we'll bring it back.
Well, the first vote, I was the only one that voted against the ordinance.
Okay.
And the second vote...
6-1, and
right.
then it passed 7-1
and then it passed
to keep it the other way.
Keep it the other way, because I don't feel that we should be controlling the mayor. I think that if the mayor's not doing what the public wants him to do, the public will speak. Mm-hmm. It's not up for council to change that.
Okay, so has there been any discussion now of that coming back again?
No, there has been no discussion on that at this point, but, you know, I think we have a very fine police department, and I'm very supportive of that police department. I think it should be said, and it should be said more often. I think we have a fine chief of police. You know, I respect him, and I respect his opinions, and I don't think the chief would say anything to us if he didn't really if the needs weren't there. And I think we should be supportive of our police chief and our police department.
They're having to do a lot of extra work lately, too, now. You've had a couple of drive-by shootings and that kind of thing. Are you concerned about that kind of, like, big city crime?
Well, sure, you know, we're concerned about it. And, you know, you're not going to stop these random incidences that are happening. But I do think that if you have additional police officers, what you're going to do is deter other crimes in the community. And therefore, it'll free the police to pursue these type of, once they happen, investigations, or be proactive on the street.
We had the story again on 35 Live today about the same dealership now having been broken into like 2 weeks in a row and a car stolen from the same. But they have made arrests, like there was that break-in string, and they got them.
Absolutely. You know, we had problems 2 years ago with the gangs on the South Street, and I live on that street.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, our police department did a fantastic job in cleaning that area up. They really have done a good job.
The other thing that has apparently moved to Berwick, and I've watched it move from Allentown to Tawako, Wilkes-Barre to Hazelton, from Hazelton now to Berwick, is that drug dealing is a big deal.
Absolutely.
And you have a big problem.
Absolutely. And we did have a big sting about 2 years ago. And, you know, I asked, the FBI was in, and I asked them, I said, you know, why Berwick? And he said, well, a number of reasons. And he said, one reason, you know, you're so close to the interstate. He said, the second reason is your housing. He said, you have low housing, and he said this is an opportune place for them to come.
Let me ask you one final question, because we have about a minute and a half left. I understand you might be able to make some news for us tonight on the status of the Berwick Hotel.
Okay, my understanding is that the Berwick Hotel has been sold. I'm not at liberty to say who purchased the hotel, but that it should be breaking in about 2 months. And we're very pleased with that, and all that week we're going to be insistent that the dangerous points of that hotel are taken care of, and we'll work with the new owners.
What about things such as outstanding fines, back taxes? Do you know if the buyer has agreed to pay the back taxes or anything like that?
At this point, I do not know that, but I'm assuming that he is.
Is the buyer someone who would develop the building or tear it down for the land? Because that is kind of historical.
Right. I'd hate to see that. I mean, and we had a lot of pressure on that building, and you know that's Berwick. You know, that's one of our landmarks, and all our landmarks are disappearing in Berwick. My understanding is that he's going to renovate it.
Oh, okay. And we have about 15 seconds, so I'm just going to thank you very much for coming on tonight.
My pleasure.
I know we'll talk to you again.
My pleasure.
Our guest tonight has been Borough Council President and former Columbia County Commissioner Lucille Whitmire. We'll be back again in 2 weeks with another show. As we tell you all the time on radio, if you can do it, it ain't bragging. Night all. Who did that?